Welcome back to the Mid-Year YouTube channel. In today's episode, we're sending this 63 split window home, and I thought it was a great time to do a full project recap. Start at the beginning, work through the birdcage work, the custom chassis work, the floor work, all the fiberglass repairs, and all the new panels we put on this car to turn this thing from a basket case into a project car with great potential to become a resto mod. So be sure to stick around. This project came to the shop about a year ago. It came on the back haul from whenever I sent home the Tribute Split, which this was a wrecked C2 Coupe. It was one of the worst cars that I've ever fixed and needed all new fiberglass from Dynamic Corvettes. It's a wide body. It's on a Roadster Shop Spec 7 chassis. So my customer liked it so much he sent me one of his best cars. Now it's a little deceiving. The doors aren't original to the car and the top wasn't attached. It was just resting on it. The top was from another car and so were the doors. And the center of the floor was cut out, you can see. I didn't have to cut that part out, and all that was done to save a 63 Z06. So they parted out this car, which we thought was nice, but it was actually pretty well wrecked and beat up. They parted the roof, the doors, and anything usable off of this 63 to save a 63 Z06. Whenever I got the car, the plan was to put this thing on a Roadster Shop Spec 7 chassis, fix the birdcage a little bit. It had some rusty gutters, glue new fiberglass on it, and send it down the road. But unfortunately, we analyzed it, and pretty quickly I realized this car had been in a little bigger accident than we thought. The birdcage was twisted, the quarter panels were torn up, there was some rust in the windshield frame of the birdcage, so I decided let's pull all the fiberglass off because the car's already torn apart. Let's fix all the rust right, make sure there's no other underlying problems that we need to address, send this thing off, get it blasted and powder coated, treated, and reskin the body. So we had to do a lot of steps backwards, but fortunately for us, a lot of the hard work was already done. This car was pretty well stripped down, minus the floor pan, the door jamb fiberglass. Whenever I'm removing bonded fiberglass panels, I like to use an air hammer with a really sharp chisel that has enough force to blast it apart. It also, with a nice sharp chisel, leaves you pretty nice clean lines. It takes it apart quickly without damaging or fatiguing the panel. I decided to replace the rockers. They had a little bit of rust between the hinge pillar to the rocker and the latch pillar to the rocker, but mainly on the driver's side, there were a lot of waves in it, and it was bent by the body mount, so I knew this car had been in some kind of accident or was picked up with a fork truck, and they didn't remove the body mount and it bent it. So we decided to replace both sides. Luckily, they reproduced these rockers, and they're very nice quality, so they went right in. If you're interested and you want to see more detailed videos on this car, head over to my YouTube channel and check out the playlist for the Sacrificial Split. I have dozens of videos on individual projects week by week that I did, where I go over all the details, why I did the things that I did, how I fixtured everything to make sure this car went back together the way that GM made it, and to make it a really nice high quality build for the customer. I have a couple different fixtures I use whenever I replace rockers to make sure the door jamb orientation is correct, but I like to test fit my doors anyway, so I tack everything in place, test fit the doors to make sure they open and close the way that they're supposed to. Now I'm removing the drip rails and the gutters from the car using a combination of tools to grind the spot welds out and to clean up the metal around it. Now I also discovered the windshield frame had some rust, so I developed some windshield spacers based on original GM tooling that I 3D print and sell on my website. If you're interested, head over to Shop Mid-Year Mitch and get you some of those. I've sold a bunch of them and they have helped a lot of people out. Windshields in these cars do not fit the windshield frame perfectly. They float in the middle because of the rubber gasket they have. So if you want to get a nice tight fit on your windshield, you need something to take up the space to check it. So I developed these blocks to have different thicknesses to allow you to shim your windshield frame up the proper way before you take it apart, to make sure if you need to replace a section for rust or crash damage, that your windshield fits perfectly and you put your windshield frame back to the way that it was originally. I also discovered when I removed the windshield pillar that I had some rust to fix on the top cap, so these are available as reproductions for the whole cap, but it was only a small portion that needed to be repaired, so I just hand fabbed it myself, sprayed some weld through primer on it, made it fit perfectly, and then started burning it in, and it worked just fine. It can be a little tricky installing these windshield pillars because it still has to fit the door, You want to put it in the correct place so it contours the windshield properly, and it also has to fit where the firewall matches up. So there's a lot of stuff that you need to get correct. I make a couple different patterns, and my windshield spacers help get all this set up properly, so that way I know whenever you put a windshield gasket on this thing, it'll seal properly and it won't have any issues. After grinding the welds down, I wanted to check to make sure my windshield fit with the spacers, and I also wanted to compare it to my original fixture, which is made of steel, and I made that from a good Birdcage. Everything looked great. Now I have to move on to patching up some rust from where the gutters are. These pieces aren't available right now. I heard rumors that they may be coming available soon, but right now you have to make your own patch panels if there's any rust on the Coupe specific parts of the Birdcage. To make these patches in a couple different pieces just to get everything to flow together. There's quite a few curves, contours, a couple different lines, and you have to make sure that the drip rail fits this piece properly. After the patches were made, now I can go on to fitting the drip rails and the gutters. I always find that they're a little long, and I tend to tweak them in this corner in the back of the door to make sure there's enough clearance. Just because once you start moving the door around to fit the door to the body in later steps, it helps to have a little bit more clearance. So I finesse them a little bit to get them to fit the way that I want them to. I hold the drip rails in place with Clecos, and then I drilled a bunch of 3/16 holes in it and plug welded all those out. And I'm going to save the grinding step till last because this Birdcage isn't attached to an entire car, so I can flip this in any orientation I want to finish the welds, grind it off, and I don't have to have sparks raining down my neck. A few spot weld seams had popped loose in the Birdcage from the crash, so I had to re-drill some holes, plug weld those panels to make sure that everything was nice and tight. I also went around and hammered and dollied any areas that had a little wrinkle in them, which there were a few. Now we got to pull out my chassis jig, clean the garage up. I had to pull the body off the 67 Roadster because it was using the chassis that is for the 63 split window, so I did the body swap once I sent the cage out for powder coating. Now we have to work on fixing the roof. This roof came from another car, and someone drilled a bunch of holes in it to try to access the bonding strips to pull this off. There was also a big hole in the back of the body from where the antenna had broken off, so I ground down all those areas, prepped them with 36 grit, taped the backside so I had a good backer. I used a little bit of fiberglass resin dye to try to match the color of the resin a little closer to the fiberglass of the car. Once that cured up, I laid fiberglass on the back side of the panels to make sure that everything was strong and that I had a good solid repair. Now that I have the Birdcage back from powder coating, we can focus on getting the car assembled. I started by cleaning and prepping all the fiberglass panels I removed, removing any chunks of glue and loose fiberglass to prep them for bonding. Follow the same assembly steps that GM did whenever they built them. So first I add some adhesive on these bonding strips, pop rivet them in place, then we install the firewall. Next up is the main part of the floor, followed by the two outer rocker. Now we get to install the firewall plenums onto the firewall, and then this basically gets us to where we started on this project. So now we need to install the roof bonding strips. So I put a little adhesive to seal them so that no water gets in, and these all pop rivet in place, and I believe Dynamic Corvette started making these as well. So a ton of pop rivets, a lot of drilling, and we can get all these installed. Now we can test fit the body onto the Birdcage and test fit where we need to trim for the floor. I've done a couple of these, so I knew I needed to cut along the radius for the wheel wells and to cut some of the front floor, and we can get the dynamic custom rear floor to fit. It's their big tub kit that fits the Roadster Shop Spec 7 chassis. My customer ordered it in the blonde color just to make everything fit the theme of the car, being an early 63. So I prepped everything with 36 grit just like I did everywhere else, and I glued the wheel tubs in first before I glued the roof on. Laid a thin piece of plywood down between the chassis and the wheel tubs to help space everything up to give me some clearance, and I put some 3M 08115 adhesive onto the car and onto the wheel tubs, glued that in place. Now we need to make some modifications to make the transmission tunnel fit the engine and transmission, because the Roadster Shop chassis moves the engine around. I also have to modify the back of the tunnel to make more clearance for the drive shaft. To make the car sit lower, the Roadster Shop brings the suspension points up higher into the car, which means the drive shaft sits higher in the vehicle, so we have to cut the tunnel out and make modifications to make everything fit. Also had to fiberglass over some holes in the floor. There were 9 holes in the middle of the driver's seat, so I think this could have been a race car. There were also a bunch of strange holes in the tunnel that looks like somebody kind of hacked out with a saw or a hammer, and then they pop riveted some pieces of an old cigarette tin in place. I think they were red velvet or something like that. So I had to patch all that, but that was convenient because I had to bulge those areas out for the transmission. I built the back of the tunnel up. Now we can clean the underside of all my repairs, smooth it up, and also needed to prepare the firewall for the smooth firewall kit from Dynamic. And then while the body is still not glued to the Birdcage, I could smooth the underside of my repairs where I put these wheel tubs in and just make everything look nice. So that way I don't have to put the car up on a lift and try to get under it. I was just able to flip the panels upside down and prep everything as I went. Birdcage back on the chassis, I needed to install the doors so we can fit the roof onto the car and make sure that the top of the doors lines up with the roof, the opening in the roof lines up with the doors, adjust the doors as needed, and get the roof ready to glue. Use the engine crane to support the back of the Birdcage so I can get glue in and a 2x4 under the front. That way I could get glue under everything without making a mess. Carefully put the roof exactly where I need it to, then I could slowly clamp it, get it to fit exactly how I wanted it to without putting any stress anywhere. Now that the Birdcage and the roof are glued together, I can install the center part of the floor, which will tie the front floor to the back floor and make this body really stiff. Cut a hole in the firewall, that way we can access the wiper motor when the smooth firewall is on. I also made some little 90-degree angled bonding strips to hold the front of the smooth firewall in place, and I used some of Dynamic Corvette's adhesive. They also now sell it in a tube, which I will showcase very soon, but I just clamped the heck out of the firewall, installed it. Now we can work on the back of the car, getting quarter panels to fit this car. I have a nice set of original quarter panels from Vetmasters. These are press molded quarter panels that have the original style grain. They're a nice high quality fitting panel. I didn't have any issues getting these or any other part of the car to fit. I like to install the latch pillar fiberglass after I mock up the quarter panel and make sure it fits everything. Originally GM would have done this in an earlier stage, but since I'm kind of coach building the car, I found that it worked better to test fit it, make sure your doors line up with your quarter and your roof, and just install those as you go. And I'm prepping the front end, getting it ready while some other glue dried. Now I can install the quarter panels, clamp those up. I developed a custom clamping fixture that allows me to push on the back of the quarter panel from each side at the same time, which gives me solid pressure and makes sure that I don't have to use any screws. If you don't use any screws when you glue panels on, you don't have to worry about filling holes. So once the quarters are on, I save these last bonding strips and the splash shields to go on last. It makes it easier to get clamps in there. The quarters are already solidly mounted, so these panels just kind of slip into place. Now we had another front end for this car. It wasn't the highest of qualities, and I actually found out the doors were the part of the problem. So Dynamic Corvettes sent us one of their vacuum infused panels, and we used their custom wheel wells in this, so I glued those in to start off with. I've learned that that's not always the best approach, so I'm changing that for future builds, but it worked out okay in this case. Now we have to clean the firewall, and I need to start trimming away the fiberglass for these wheel tubs. These are kind of a generic part. They're designed to fit many different chassis, so I had to cut open a little hole to give access for the shock mounts and the A-arms to get the front end to sit the way it needed to. Customer had another set of 63 doors, so I pulled off the doors that we had been using. Luckily these ones fit pretty good, but the fronts of the doors fit the front end a lot better. This front end required a little bit of trimming. There was some excess, and I had to thin some areas out here and there to get stuff to line up, but everything looked good. Same thing is true for the hinge pillar fiberglass as the latch pillar. I save these till I get the front end ready to go on. Prep everything. I put all my pop rivets and solid rivets in the floor to attach the rockers, the fiberglass and steel together. And there's a couple that go under this pillar. So I installed all that. Now that these pillars are in place, we can put the door hinges in. That'll help hold these in place while I glue it. A scrap piece of fiberglass to make a patch on the firewall. There were a couple areas that were missing, and it had the perfect contour, so I glued those in place. Fiberglass hinge pillars I installed helped set the height of the front end in relationship to the door. It was a little bit low in some areas, so I used some fiberglass filler to bring that up. While that cured, I got the hood hinges mounted so I could get the hood set up to make sure that all those gaps look correct as well. So now that I'm happy with that, I trimmed out the door jamb a little bit to make enough clearance and to get the front end fitting tight. I used my 3M 08115 again. It has a 90-minute work time, so it gives me plenty of time to get everything set up. After I have the back of the front end glued, I installed the core support and I started prepping the fenders to go on the front end. I have a nice set of wiper grills here from Vet Masters. I have to build up the door jamb fiberglass and the fenders a little bit to get the side fenders to have a nice gap around them. And I really like installing these types of front ends. This is how GM did it with these side fenders that go on after. One-piece front ends are a little bit of a headache to get everything to line up and get it to look the way that you want. Dynamic did a really nice job on these parts. All the gaps turned out nice and they have really nice bond seams. I have my gluing fixture moved to the front of the car so we can glue on the side fenders, but I wanted to glue the top of the inner fenders to the fenders while I did this to make sure all that stuff was locked in and it fit properly and that the hood contoured to the top of the fenders right. After I glued the fenders on, I took some of the Dynamic Pro Set glue and I filled in the seams. I also took some of their closeout panels that fit these inner fenders. It helps make the inside of the engine bay on a Resto Mod look nice and clean to hide some of your accessories. So I had to trim it to fit the chassis. This 63 hood had a chunk of the structure missing. It was also separated from the skin and the structure. So I cut a piece to fit, made some custom bonding strips to help tie that piece of structure into the whole piece because I couldn't fiberglass the back side of the structure. That'll give us a nice bond and you won't have to worry about this piece cracking. So I glued the bonding strips on the firewall to attach those closeout panels. I didn't end up screwing those in place. I'll leave that for the customer to figure out how he wants to mount them and where he wants to put his fasteners. I cleaned up all the extra fiberglass and bonding adhesive on the car to get this thing ready to go home. So my work here is done. This car is obviously not ready for paint, body work, or the road. There's still a ton of work, many hours that need to go into it, but I like to rough in projects. I take cars They need birdcage work, fiberglass work, and I get them to a workable point where a good body man, a couple good technicians can take this thing to the finish line and make a really nice resto mod. So huge shout out to Dynamic Corvettes for supplying all the beautiful parts for this, as well as Vet Masters for the quarter panels and the exhaust valance. There's some really nice parts on this car. But that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. That's going to do it for this car. Maybe someday I'll do an update whenever he starts to get it body worked and get it ready for paint, because he also has the tribute split car. He's getting that 58 Corvette that's in there, and I have a 67 convertible to build, and I think another split window. We've got a whole bunch of cars to build for him, but this one's going to be going to a good home, and we're going to get back to Overkill, the 67 Corvette, which is in the garage right now, and we're going to get back to that 65 Roadster, as well as the 68 Big Block. So we've got a ton of projects to work on, and this one is finally going home. So I got a lot of work to do, and I'll catch you guys later.